Welcome back, wannabes and creators, to another episode of The Business of Art, the podcast that demystifies business for artists. And today, we have another live episode from Palm Springs Comic-Con. I know I've been jumping back and forth between LostCon and Palm Springs, but there was just so much awesomeness in November. We were live almost every weekend and doing multiple panels every weekend. So this is the Writer's Journey panel that I moderated with my buddy, Justin Kirkman. It was just the two of us riffing back and forth about how to build a book, how to build a world, and how to make that journey as a writer. I came from the more experienced side, and Justin, who was just launching his first slate of books, came from somebody who is more new to the world of creating and then launching products. However, even though he's only got a couple of physical products done and ready to buy, he's got tons of stuff in the hopper, and he's been writing for years and years and building worlds for even longer. Before we get on to this episode, I want to remind everyone that I have a commercial-free version of this podcast, the first 100 plus episodes available on my site for just $20. That's every ranterlude, every hard lesson, and the first 3 of our Kickstarter mini-seasons. Everything from the first 100 plus episodes of our show, minus interviews. That's over 70 episodes, almost 9 hours of content, and you can get it all commercial free for just $20 by heading on over to thebusinessofart.us/volume 1. So if you love the business of art but hate the commercials, head on over to thebusinessofart.us/volume 1 and pick up your commercial-free version today. And now let's get on with the show. As always with our live shows, the audio is a little bit janky because I record it on my phone, but the content is amazing. So if you can get over the audio, you'll have an awesome experience. If you can't, that's all right. We'll have another one that's not live very, very soon. And with that, let's get on with the show. How about this, audience? What are you having a problem with right now? Where are you on your journey? And we can speak to that.
Travis. I also would like Subogan as my artist name. I am an artist, fine art and concept art. I just got done doing a card game, which is crazy to hear, and I'm also working on a comic right now.
Okay, cool. So are you writing it now, or?
I've already written the 39 issues. I've storyboarded about 13, and I've finished production on those first 13.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. So you want to just talk about like how you got started, like how you went about building your first world, or
Sure.
how, let's talk about the world first. I think that's the biggest challenge is like, how do you take a world, how do you build the world first, we talk about, and then secondarily, like how to take this world that has so many pieces and make a coherent story about it. And that's...
Well, for me personally, how I think writing's a passion that you have to have, and you want to tell a story. For me to create the world, I just take a whole bunch of references and take notes when I'm writing to remember at later dates. So I take all that and then I streamline it into a story and just write them all of them down. And then eventually what happens is I put it into a storyline. So I do it kind of more of the world building first and just piecing it together, and then I find the story arc through it.
Yeah, so for me, I'm the opposite. I don't write down anything, ever. To me, I believe that if it's not good enough to come back again and again, it's not good enough. So, and I don't bother with like the crappy ideas, which they're mostly crappy. How I go through is I maybe have 100 ideas that like ping pong every month. I'm like, oh, those will all be interesting. And then I like wait until one world really like sets itself apart by coming back and back and back and back and back. But how I generally start is with the character. So I'm pretty sadistic when it comes to my characters.
Yeah, I noticed.
So my goal is to find a character who speaks very loud. So the characters have to ping pong back and back and back and back and back a lot of times until they get so annoying that they feel fully developed in my head without me even writing anything down. So I mean, when I say not write anything down, generally I will, once it comes back several times, I'll like make a folder for it, and then I'll like do a log line for it, and then I'll like slowly build. But I'm not working a lot until they're in my head all the time and annoying. that allows me to be a little bit more sadistic because they're annoying the piss out of me. So then I'm like, okay, well, what is the worst possible world you can be put into?
Yeah.
So my world building starts with like Katrina. So our most popular book is about a girl who hates the undead and just wants to be left alone. So I'm like, okay, so what is the most annoying thing that you could possibly be put into? Well, the apocalypse is pretty bad, and having to like become a hero is pretty bad. Like, she just wants to be left alone, to live in peace and quiet. And so that finding where the biggest conflict is going to be in the world is sort of how I think kind of weirdly most people start with the world first. I start with the character and then decide to be as sadistic as humanly possible with them.
Well, I mean, that makes sense to start with the character because that's what drives your story. You have to usually follow one central character, and then everything kind of revolves around it. One of the things with my book is that it has so many characters, and trying to balance that and trying to show enough for each of the characters in infinite glory. It's just, I have a cast of probably about 13 characters, so trying to balance that in such a small time is a lot of work. So even some of my rewrites when I do later is trying to create that central character into going through it. Maybe Russell can talk more about
so I'm just not good enough as a writer to do that. Like, this is the flat out, like, I know my limitations as a writer, and my strength as a writer is character.
Yeah.
It's not world building, it's the character, and following one character is just way fucking easier. Like, seeing, like, all of my novels are seen through one character's eyes. All my books are Katrina hates dead shit. Ichabod Jones, Monster Hunter. My father didn't kill himself. Spaceship broken, needs repairs. They're all follow one person. And they're mostly about perception and perspective and emotion instead of world. I look at things like George R.R. Martin's books, or like Lord of the Rings, or these books that are heavy on world building, and they follow a lot of point of view characters. That just seems like a lot of fucking work.
It is a lot of work. You think of like Game of Thrones and stuff like that, where you have the central characters always shifting around, and then your main character eventually, he likes to kill off characters, so then it switches to something else. And he's right. That's a lot. That's a lot to keep in your brain going around trying to figure out those storylines, especially for epic long series. If you're doing one series, it's easier to do a full story of one character instead of following a whole bunch of them through. And I think as me as a writer, I think my next one will be mainly one central character driven.
Yeah, I mean, when I started writing, it was sort of by necessity. Like, I wanted to be, going all the way back, like, I wanted to be an actor in high school, and then I wanted to be a DP in college, and then I wanted to be a director out of college. Just no one was fucking hiring me to direct, so I was like, I gotta write. Then I got in a car accident, and I couldn't direct anymore, and I couldn't really shoot because my back was all screwed up. So like, I was like, well, the one thing I have control over is me and the written word. It's like, what? Not a very good writer. Not very good. Like, I wasn't I think I'm a fantastic writer now, but like back then, this was 10 years ago. Like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I just finished a shooting and directing this movie called Connections, this web series called Connections, which is god awful. And so I was like, how do I take what limited skills I have and like make something that I can do? And I think this is when writers are first starting out, they want to make this enormous, epic masterpiece project, and they're generally just not fucking good enough to do it. Not that they don't have like raw talent. I'm saying like the skill necessary to do Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like, George R.R. Martin didn't start out doing Game of Thrones. Like, that was his like 50th. I don't know how many years and how many books he put out, but it was a lot of books that he put out before he put out Game of Thrones. And it's generally easier to make a character that's very point of view driven. Because you can say, okay, what is motivating this character? And then what would this character need to have conflict? As opposed to like an epic story where like, okay, now I have to have something that is important to the whole world. This huge event in the whole world, and now I have to tell how each person is going to react to it. And instead of having 200 or 300 pages to show all of these worlds, I only have, and just show one person's point of view, I have what's 300 divided by, let's say you have 20 characters.
Yeah.
I've never got 15. I've got to tell the same epic story and get you to feel this way about 15 characters. And I don't even know how to fucking do that for one.
Well, maybe segueing into after we got our writing done, since we're both graphic artists or graphic novelists or whatever you want to call it, maybe in that process from shifting from your writing and your vision into drawings, how would you describe that?
So I'm pretty. You're an artist. Is everyone else artists? Are they more writers or? Right. How about yourself? Are you? Okay. So, yeah. So it's a little bit different for me as a writer, but it goes the same way with art. So, for instance, I wanted to make a book that was of a certain cost. I wanted it to cost a certain amount per page.
Yeah.
So I knew as far as an art style went, I couldn't hire an artist to do something that was as detail-oriented as like Atomica or like a book. And this goes to artists too. Like as an artist, you know, if you know you're going to have, if you want to do 100 pages in 100 days, you probably are not going to be able to be as detail-focused oriented. I'm not saying the book pages aren't as good. I'm saying that it's just the style needs to be different when you're trying to make a book that is, you know, that is done in a year or 4 months, especially with all the other stuff. So I specifically look for artists of a certain style that can attain what I want for the price that I want in the style that I want. So I would make books. So Ichabod Jones' Monster Hunter is a very like psychological mind fuckery book. It's meant to be told in a very manga-esque style, more cartoony style. It's very, very violent, so I wanted to make sure the book was cartoony so that, you know, you accepted more violence. So I made sure to write a script that made sense for that, and then hire an artist who fulfilled that vision. So to me, the art part of it comes back to the story and me saying, hey man, I know I'm not going to be able to pay somebody $500 a page. I can pay them $100 a page. And knowing that an artist is going to take this much time to do this, like I need to write a story that is of this style, and I need to find an artist who's of this style, and I need to do this book in a certain style so that I can fit within that budget. And I think that's one thing that artists don't think about.
Good question.
I mean, for me, I am pretty loose with the story. So what happens to me is the story, the first issue is very well thought out, and like I do very detailed panels. By like 2, 3, and 4, once we have like a rapport, a lot of it is just like do whatever the hell you want, like here.
In my case, in the first book, I hired an artist that was kind of his own editor. So when I gave him the script, it was kind of pieced together loosely, and he kind of took the pages and rewrote it into how I wanted for Infinite Glory at the beginning. My series book, he follows basically every panel that I say, does it to the T. But for the paneling and on the pacing, I actually hired an editor to help me with that. Because when you look at it, this one's very art driven. It's very splashy at the same time, so it's good because then if I want to go print some of this stuff and sell it, the first one's easy. The second one tells a better story, and the art's really good. But when I paced it out, it's already compact. So I need to give some more room for my artist to breathe instead of pushing all these content in there. Because when you first start writing, you're like he was talking about pace point, like you pay per page, right? So you try to cram a lot in a page, but at the end of the day, that kind of gives it problems too, because you don't have as much of that art that you can pull out of it too. So.
Yeah, that's happened with this book. As it got more expensive, we had to cut a lot of the splash pages out. But what's nice is as you're working with an artist for a long time, or for a longer time, issues arise in the script. So we had an issue here in issue 2 where Katrina is fighting these Cerberus dogs, these 3-headed dogs from hell, and it was supposed to be 2 pages, and we had to get it down to like 4 panels. And I kept writing and writing and writing and writing how it happened, and he kept redoing the pages, and they just didn't work. So eventually I said, look, here's the deal. It has to go from page like 6, panel 2 to page 8, panel 3 in 3 panels. I don't give a shit how you do it. Just make it functional, because you're the artist. Like, you have the vision for, how to make this work in less pages. And once I did that, suddenly, once he did that successfully, I was much more willing to be like, hey, like, here's what I want, big epic fight scene here, do whatever you want, like, make it work. Because one of the things that I found when you're doing long books is, even if you're paying somebody, it's a collaboration. If you're doing it yourself, it's even more so, because you will get bored. Dude, you're going to get bored at like page 4 or about issue 4. It's going to be boring to an artist, and they're going to, if you are so didactic dictatorial on a page, it's going to get to a point where the artist is like, to me, like, the creativity needs to be able to flow. So I don't know, how do you deal with that?
Well, I know for the creativity things, splash pages are always good, of course. You want that for them. But at the same time, it's like, sometimes they draw it a certain way, so then maybe just change the lettering or however you want to fit it. Because, for instance, some of my characters in the first book, their mouths might not be moving or something, or their expressions look different. So then you're like, kind of change your wording to kind of match it. Kind of like more of like a Marvel approach, where they just kind of do a lot of the paneling out, and then you can add words later. And also, if the pacing's off, you can always try to see if you can swap pages around too, and try to rewrite the story a little bit to make it more dynamic as well for pacing.
Yeah, but every book, so 5 issues, we have like 2 or 3 pages that just don't make it, that I have to cut. I've paid for, but I'm just like, it just gets cut. I generally am very script heavy when I write a script. And then I actually go in once they send me the roughs, and I will letter in pre-letter it all. I don't know how to letter, but like, I can at least put a word bubble in and put words in. So something like 50 to 60% of my words get cut out. The only reason they are ever in there is because I want the artist to get the expression of the character right. But once I see their expression is correct, the expression should carry the emotion of the scene. Just like in a movie, you could have something that has no, in a comic, you could have something that has no words, but you can't really put no words on most pages of a comic when you're writing it, because then nobody knows what there's no expression, there's no context. So you might say, I fucking hate you, you're an idiot, you're a jerk, whatever on the page, all really bad writing, like horrible writing. But once you see it, you can say, oh, I don't need any of that. Like, the girl threw a thing and the guy caught it, and like, I don't need, like, it does everything you need. Do you do that too with your?
Well, yeah, for the most part, like, sometimes I'll remove words depending on the art, but sometimes I'll add them in there too. Like, for instance, I know in my first book here, or actually in the series, there was a page where it's just like, there's this guy in the shadow, but at the same time it's already going to press, and it's just not clear. So then you start adding some words in there to kind of be like, oh, who's this, or something to kind of lead that, because when you start having people edit it or just look at it, you can start to kind of see things that might not be caught by everyone, and then so you kind of try to tweak it a little bit. But that's the whole journey of everything, is trying to tweak those things.
Well, just like with the movie, it's not done until it's edited. So even if you're the artist and the writer, I think you're not going to write the day you draw the page. It's going to be months later. So in order to convey that emotion, I still recommend that you overwrite like crazy. And then in 3 months, when you're ready to draw that page, be like, what the hell was I thinking? Oh yeah, this is the emotion I wanted to convey. And then almost never is the page that's in your head gonna come out on the page. Like, all of the creative process is just trying to get, like, all of becoming a professional or a successful writer or artist is just trying to narrow the gap between what's in your head and what's on the page. You know, when you start, it's maybe 20%. And you just hope that in time, you know, with editing and with doing more projects, you get close. But I've never sent a page to an artist and been like, this is exactly what I wanted. It's close, or sometimes, often, way better. I mean, you hope when you're hiring an artist, it's way better because they're visual. And then when you look at the page, that's way better. You're like, all right, I don't need this. Like, all of these words make no sense, so I now have to rewrite it. You have that happen too?
Oh yeah. So the series one I'm doing, Infinite Glory series, my artist is just so well. He does all this paneling for movies and things, right? So when you look at it, it comes back, and then you're just like, wow, this is like, because you write it out and you're like, this is way better than you can imagine, right? And then like even like the flow and everything, you don't have to really give any input on that. But then there's other times when maybe the letters come back or the balloons or something. You have to look at how it flows through the page and make sure that it leads the eyes throughout it. And so when you're working with these people, you have to make sure that you understand the whole process as well. And I know for my books, mine are kind of more independent. So you have to have the flow of that, right? So you have to understand the whole principle. You don't have to be able to do it, but you have to understand it. So.
Yeah, I think that's what you said. Something about being very independent. Like, our books are very independent too. Yeah. They do not look like they're independent, but the way we keep costs down and time down is to make sure that our books have the maximum impact for the lowest cost. For instance, Teen Titans. The Justice League Unlimited, or like the Teen Titans show, the Junior Justice League show that was out a few years ago, that they're doing the third season of. That is, like those sorts of shows. Yes, Young Justice, that one. So Young Justice is a Teen Titans show, as is Teen Titans Go. Nobody would look at either of those shows and say they're unprofessional. Like, one just has way less detail than the other, but they both are of a professional quality. Powerpuff Girls, it is as professional, seen as professional as Justice League Unlimited. Those styles are way different and take a very different amount of time. However, they both convey professionalism.
Yeah.
So, with artists, I find that they want the most detail on every page, and they're willing to spend 3 weeks on a page. Like, when they're doing it, they're like, oh, it's just my own time, so I can do whatever I want. But then it takes 11 years to do a graphic novel, and if they had done something that is of a more still professional, more less detailed style, or something they could turn around in a day or 2 days of art and writing and art time, they'd be so much further along, because then they'd have something to sell, and they would be able to find a market for that thing, because animation and comics are all over the range. If you come to my table, this is this guy who started working for Dark Horse right after this on Star Wars, and I have a book called Gherkin Boy, which is about a pickle that falls into a black hole that I write and draw. They are both professional. People buy both books. Granted, this went out like 10 to 1. But the Gherkin Boy book took me 2 months to draw, whereas this one took like a year and a half. So, but when you talk about indie, it's not all like, it doesn't have to look to the realism level of Marvel or DC. It can look at any level, as long as it is professional quality. And I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't know. I think I might have tipped on something, but I don't know. You guys have any questions?
Well, yes. The book does look awesome, though.
I know. Isn't it cool?
Yeah, it is cool.
You guys, you have a question?
So I'm trying. This is about comics, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I just walked in. But anyway, I'm trying to make cartoon comics. I was wondering, what's the best ratio of dialogue?
You want to go? Take that one?
You can take that one. Well, dialogue to action, I think you have to build your characters. And if you don't have your characters built, then it's not going to be a successful story. Mine's very action-driven. Both of my comics are very action-driven. but you need to have a feel with the characters. If you don't have that character bonding, then it's going to be more of like a cartoon type of feel opposed to a full story. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, 80 words of word bubble. 80 words a panel, less than 80 words a panel, less than 150 words a page. I mean, that's just the math that most people have said. I prefer the less is more approach. Well, I was just saying earlier, I prefer overwriting on the script and then cutting as much as humanly possible. It's the same thing I used to do when I worked in movies. I would want to overwrite it, and then I would like cut it down on the day at set to like the literal bare essentials, or sometimes rewrite the whole thing completely because, you know, it has to make sense coming out of the people's mouth with what you wrote. Does that answer your question? Yeah. All right, so you, and then go to you.
What's the best way to get noticed as an illustrator?
Can you repeat that?
What's the best way to get noticed as an illustrator? Like, what do you guys look for, or where do you look to find your illustrators?
I basically kind of look at a price point and see what I can afford, and then I start going for what matches with my comic. Since these two are both Infinite Glory are very action oriented, I kind of looked for that when I was looking for my artists. So I kind of look through the portfolios and see if they can do paneling, see if they can do a full page, because so many art, you look at it and it's just a single image. But when I look at an artist, I'm looking for the paneling and the storytelling.
Over multiple pages.
Pages.
A lot of people will just do one page sequential art or one page from 10 different books. But you got to have like 5 pages of each thing. So back when I first started, and it's now much different now, so I'll tell you original and now. I went to DeviantArt and mostly digital webbing and pencil jack, and I would post my what I was looking for and wait for people to respond. Those people that responded got an offer to do a test page, people who offered to do a test page, and then people would fall off at each level. So like I would post things and maybe 150 people would send me their portfolio, I'd ask for a test page, and 50 people would come back, and of those I would like pick between those ones. But now I mostly look at people who are on my friends list and people who are actually finishing projects and doing projects and posting work that I need, that I want to work with. Because I have a lot of artist friends who, as much as I love them, they don't have a style that I like their style, but I don't write like that. But every once in a while I take notice of like some people. I take notice of a lot of people and say, okay, this guy would be good if this ever came along, and sometimes I'll have a pin-up or something and I'll go straight to them. Or I'll have a cover that I need done and I will go straight to them and say, this is perfect for you, would you be interested? But it's people that are on my Facebook feed, people that are in groups that I'm a part of, that are constantly posting stuff and showing that they can be on time, that they're moving forward in their careers, and that their style is of the style that I want or that I need, and then that they're polite, that they are on time, and that they're talented. And if they can perform those 3 functions and be active, constantly churning out good quality stuff, then that's when I take notice. But I think you have to be friends with so many people, because your style, I mean, out of the 2,000 friends I have on Facebook, maybe half of them are artists. And of those, maybe 2% of those I would consider working with, either because they're too expensive, and I know they're way too expensive, or they don't do a style that I'm particularly like looking for. But that doesn't mean I would never hire them for somebody else if they came to me and said, I need this. People come to me all the time and say, I need an artist for this, and I pass them to other people. But I would never do that unless it's in an anthology. Another great thing is people who've been in anthologies with your friends suddenly move up a chain, because like I'm doing an anthology. I know a lot of my friends do anthologies, and we do those anthologies because we probably are never going to work with the 30 creators that I have in this new anthology I'm doing. Never going to, like, the chance that me doing 1 book a year, which is how much I pace myself at to sort of get 1 graphic novel out a year, unless I work with those artists for the next 30 years, I'm never going to work with all of them. But an anthology allows me to see all of them, who gets pages in on time, which is more important, in all fairness, than the quality of those pages, who can tell a great story, and that's how you. So I recommend going as many anthologies as you can. I was off anthologies for a while, but now I'm all in again. They take a very little time commitment, as far as like 5 pages, maybe 5-10 pages. You can crank a bunch of them out, get into some of them, and start saying, hey, I've been in all of these anthologies, and I would look it up if I don't know you and say...
Yeah, so segue on into that is just basically just write a short story, panel it out, and do it. I know Marvel, how they kind of do it is they tell a story in very loose form, because the way Marvel does it is they just kind of make you write the story, the paneling, everything yourself, and they want to see if you can do a story as well. I know you had a question as well?
Well, he had a question first, and then...
Go ahead.
Yes, sorry.
A little bit back to world building.
Yeah.
13 characters, and how do you keep their distinct voices so they don't start to sound like the same person?
Well, I never really thought about them sounding the same. Mine's kind of unique in the fact that they all have different color schemes. They also have different powers. So that kind of shows their character in that aspect of the 13 characters. As far as that, you kind of drive the action to the character. That's the way I do it for mine. I wouldn't know how you would do 13 characters unless it was something specific, you know.
I would pick a human being who accurately represents in your life, like that actually exists in your life, that sounds like the person you want to mimic, and then when you're writing them, read it back and say, well, does this sound like my Aunt Jenny? Does this sound like my cousin Tom? And like, at least that kind of, it has to be people that you talk to on a regular basis, or you have talked to. At least that would be like accurate, like somewhat accurate. You also can write out, for the 13 characters, you can write out 10 or 20 expressions that character says that are unique to them. And then you can cross-reference it as you're writing it back. But honestly, the best way is to me, is to have the character in your head and then speak the thing out and be like, all right, this sounds like that person.
How many characters do you have?
As point of view characters or altogether characters? So these are two very different answers.
He goes first.
They're literally the opposite answers. 2. 2 is too many.
2 is too many, so 1.
1 point of view character that drives the story.
Yeah, so if it's a longer series, you can kind of do different stories with it. If it's a single episode, you should probably focus on one character. Even in that one episode, you should probably focus on one character.
But even George R.R. Martin, like one chapter is one character's point of view. So you have to, like, so if you're doing a 20-issue story, you could do maybe 2 or 3 characters per issue. When you're talking about even like Lost, the TV show Lost, you know, every episode would have one focus. You know, the beginning of the episode would have like a flashback to one character's thing that happened before, after, or during the crash, and it would focus on them, and then every episode would have a different focus. So for me, even though I have scenes in my books that have different characters' point of view potentially, like in this one, Connie is the secondary character. She has scenes that are just her. All of the moving of the story forward happens from Katrina's point of view, for Ichabod's point of view. Do you find that?
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
It should probably focus on one.
Sure.
Sure.
Right.
for each character. Just like focus on there until it's another scene or another chapter or another issue. It's like it's going to be kind of kept consistent. You can't jump around and like one second you can read this person's thought and then the same time you read the other person's thought.
I pick one person to like drive the story at least per issue. So each 22 so each 22 pages
Yeah.
maybe, or so.
Well, in this case, they're a little bit bigger, but yes, and basically, this one is a full story. It's basically a combat between two people, one main perspective. This one has multiple right now, but it's going through the series. It's going to follow one person. So, because you have to have that motivation, you have to have that growth, and it's easier to get attached to someone when you're focused on one person. If you're focused on so many people, it's hard to get that emotional attachment because it's just too much. So
Right.
trying to focus on one is way easier.
On top of that, the audience needs to, you said something very important, that the most important thing is the audience connecting with your character. So if you switch around too much, it's harder to build empathy with a character. And if a person, when somebody comes to my table, I say this is one character story. If you like the first 5 pages or 10 pages, it's that character throughout. If you like read the first 3 pages of this, it's going to be the same character throughout the story. And they go, okay, I like this story. I can get accustomed to this. But if you're doing a longer form like your series,
Yeah.
like I could never continue Katrina for 50 episodes because like a character can only change so much.
Yeah.
Like they can only have so much journey. So like even when he said George R.R. Martin, you know, like yeah, there's a 1,000-page book, but each character has maybe 100 chapters out of that whole book. And so it allows each one to like settle down, take a breath, not have to deal with like them for a while, and then come back at the next entry point for when they're doing something cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, cool. Does anyone have other questions? An anthology is a bunch of creators that come through and like do, you know, a little piece, so
Like a
10 to
short story.
15 page. Hang on, hey. So, person who just was in here, you, that one, come here. Oh, so this is my podcast. So it has. This is when all this is going to be for next time. So you can listen to it later at your leisure.
Thank you so much.
So any questions about creating a comic or anything like that? Anyone?
What would you suggest starting out with? Like literally have not created any significant comic story. What would be the best place to start?
So there's a comic script database, which has hundreds of scripts, hundreds, maybe thousands of scripts from other writers who have done this at Marvel and DC successfully for years in all sorts of different genres, all kinds of different stuff. Like that's the best place to start, is just read a ton of scripts, in my opinion.
My thought is just finish one. It might not be what you want, but it's your first one, so just finish a short one, get it out there, go network at these conventions, talk to other people, get their input, get their knowledge, because once you have something physical, it's a lot easier it shows that you're serious with it too. So just get something out that doesn't have to be the greatest.
For sure. I mean, I know Justin because I've been tabling for a while, and
Yeah.
Justin, when he was starting this, or when he was as it was going through,
Yeah.
he was like showing me at different shows how it was going, how it was finished. We were talking at shows and
Yeah.
networking, and now is this the official launch this weekend of these two?
Yeah.
Or the official relaunch, or like these?
No. So Infinite Glory at the beginning is the actual first. This is the first release of this one. This one it's been around. It's kind of been pre-release mode, but then it's officially, I guess, it launched. It's
Yeah.
padded, limited edition.
So by doing a book or having a thing finished, like you can have a different conversation. I'll be honest, at 100 shows, I've done this. I just finished booking my 47th show this year. This is my 43rd, 2016. There have maybe been, I don't know, 1,000 people this year out of all the shows I've done who've said they want to do a book. Like, okay, that's cool. You want to do a book? I give them my card. I tell them to listen to my podcast. Very rarely do they. But when you have a book and you say this is done, you can have a different conversation with people. You can say, hey, I'm doing this book. I had a real problem with here, and we can have an actual pointed discussion about how to go from 2 to 3 pages, or the problem with characters, or these things. But until you run up against a roadblock, it's real hard to push through. I remember Justin had some roadblocks at the thing, and hopefully I could.
Well, I mean, throughout the whole time, I mean, putting together something like this, you have a lot of moving parts. If you're doing it, in my case, I'm just the writer, right? So not just the writer, but I mean, I'm the content creator of everything, right? So I have to kind of manage that. So when you're creating a comic, if you're hiring an artist, you need to make sure they do their thumbs, their pencils, their inks, and then from that you have to have a letter and a colorist, and then you have to do a pre-press and editing and all this stuff. So when you're creating a bigger book, it takes a lot of work. So when you do the whole, just think of it like the backbone. So if you can finish the backbone of one of those and get something, even a small 8-page thing printed, you can go print them cheap. Like on Kablam you can just do a one-off print. And some other,
there's a lot of them. Kablam, Comics Wellspring, RA Comics Direct.
Kablam, I know you can do a proof for one. So I mean, if you don't want to do, but most of them are like 25 prints. But I mean, for 8 pages, I don't know. You could print it yourself. It doesn't matter. But as long as you get something done with that, it shows that you're serious, and it shows that you can actually.
Like anybody can say they want to do a book. Anybody can say they can do a book. Everybody says they're going to do a book. Everyone says they want to do a book. Very few people actually do a book. Like, maybe 80% of my time at shows is talking to people who say they're going to do a book. And like having someone who's done a book or is doing a book or can intelligently talk about a book. So like when we met, you were talking about how, going through, I don't remember what part of the process you were on, but we're like, oh yeah, I remember when I was doing that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, here's how I do, and he's like, here's how I do, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. You learn from each other, and you get a book, and you talk to, like, it's just a different conversation. In the same way that tabling behind a table becomes a much different conversation. So, like, the 2 things that propelled my career forward the most was, 1, finishing like books and being able to show them to people and being like, oh, okay, you're not just some jagweed, you're a guy who, sorry, not that you guys are all jagweeds, but like you're not just someone who's coming by and saying like you want to do a book, you actually are doing a thing. Oh, and you have another thing in the works, and like you're probably going to be, I can now kind of let my guard down and like, because I can now put some investment in you, like Justin or other people that I meet who actually do, like I can think of people who've been like, here's a book, this is a thing I do, I'm going to do another one, like, okay, there's a pretty good chance that if I give you the knowledge that is in my head, or I invest in you, like emotionally invest in you, buy your books, you're going to keep doing stuff, you're not going to fall off. And the second one was, so when I was able to hand books to people, it opened a lot of doors, and I was able to talk to a lot of people and get a lot more meetings and meet a lot more higher end creators and become friends with them. The second was when I started tabling, which is exhibiting like what I'm doing now in the back here. When you're tabling, you now have access to all of the people who are behind a table in a different way than you did before, because y'all paid the same amount to get in. Y'all take yourself seriously enough to throw down money, not just as an attendee or a free pro badge, but like you paid money to get in the door, and that gives you, that again, that like takes the guard down from me or other exhibitors and say, okay, you care enough to exhibit at this show, it's probably a good chance that you're taking yourself seriously enough to invest in a conversation that's more than just, oh, that's very nice, or thank you very much, here's my website. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Before you even had the first book, you didn't know how long this process was going to take and how much it was going to cost. What was the difference between what you thought the first book was going to take? We'll just talk about time, to how long it actually took. What was the next one?
Okay. So this first book took me, was quoted 3 months. And this first book took me 2 years. This second book was quoted me 3 months, and it took me 3 months. So you kind of learn throughout the process. Things happen. Artists kind of disappear sometimes when you're working with people. So mitigate some of that. The good thing in this is I actually didn't give up, I guess,
Right.
and I kind of gave up on the first one. It just eventually happened. So that's. Did I answer your question? Okay. Keeping the artist on task. I don't know how what you would say. Things happen in life, so sometimes making sure things get done. I think that's the hardest part. When you work with someone that's farther away, sometimes it's harder to kind of get that stuff done. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah.
8 pages is an ash can. 8 pages is an ash can, so 8 pages.
Okay, sorry. What was your question again?
If you're starting out,
Yeah.
illustrating your own stuff, you wrote it, you thought of it, how many pages would you recommend going to just as a base to say I'm capable of doing this?
8 you can print easy, but what's your thought, Russell?
An issue, at least an issue. 8 pages, they at least get the ball rolling, but like one issue.
Like 22 pages?
Yeah, 22 pages. But my buddy Joe does this really cool thing where he does like 30-page complete stories. So like when he finishes them, they may be 30, maybe 40. It depends on the book, but they're saddle stitched. And he brings them to the Kickstarter once they're done. And like $3,000 he tries to raise, I think, like somewhere around that range. But like they're complete stories. So like even though they're short, they're complete. And what I want to see when I'm publishing you, not when I'm hiring you as an artist. For an artist, I think 8 pages. But if I'm publishing you, I want to see that you can complete a thought effectively. Because it's very easy to begin a thought.
Yeah.
It's very easy to, it becomes, every page that goes on, it becomes harder and harder and harder to tell a cogent story that ends appropriately. And 8 pages, it's pretty easy to get 8 pages that like can wow you. Like, oh wow, the first 8 pages are great. But to get 30 pages that tell a story that continue to like to engage the mind. Yeah, 8 pages is like half a register. So like an ash can is usually 8 pages. So like traditionally 8 pages is like what you bring as like a sample. It's called an ash can.
I mean, in cases like that, I think sometimes people get burned out maybe because they're being too much of a perfectionist. I don't know if that's your case, but sometimes they want to like do every little detail of it and make sure it's well. So you could probably just, some people, my guess is just kind of thumb it all through, just finish it really quickly, and then kind of just start tweaking it up. Does that help? Okay.
So my advice to you is, if you don't love it enough to continue on with it, you should abandon it immediately.
Is this something you're doing yourself or getting paid for?
So pick one. That's way too many. Pick one that you love the most, and then do that while you. So take all your client work, and then whatever's left over is the one project that you did. One.
Okay. Choose one of your personal projects, and then the client work. Finish that stuff.
Yeah. So take all the client work, like all the client work that you're getting paid for, and then whatever is left is what you have to do a personal project, and pick the one you're most passionate about. If you lose passion for it, abandon it and hope you might come back later. But if you don't love it enough to finish it and keep working on it, then you're never gonna be passionate enough about it to sell it later. Huh? Yes. So I would say if you are not willing to dedicate however much to finish, if a kid's book's 22 pages, roughly, so if you're going more than 22 pages, it's too much. But if you're doing 22 pages and you can't even commit to 22 pages and keep yourself interested for 22 pages, probably not something that is going to sell effectively, because you're not going to be able to sell it effectively. But that's a whole new topic.
So are you almost done with time, or?
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, work in general. I mean, I know this is his full-time job, but I have a full-time job on top of this. So, and then I have to manage I had 3 books that are released today. So, yeah, it takes a lot of toll. So, trying to balance some of that.
I mean, pick the thing you're most passionate about, whatever it is. Like the one thing. To me, like I could never do a series because I like self-contained things. All of our books are self-contained. They're small. I can maintain passion for 100 pages and love it. I have not found a book that I love for a long time, so long enough to do 50 issues of. So I want a complete thought that I can be completely passionate about and behind. But I spent $30,000 to get these 2 books through production. And like that's a lot of passion. Not writing, but like that's a lot of passion to come through on these pages. Yeah. And so when I sell it, like that passion comes through, and the creating it is only a very, very small part of the whole thing. The big part is you're going to create these things one time. Justin has created these particular issues one time. You're going to sell them for the rest of your life. And if you can't have enough energy to be passionate to sell this stuff, to be on these things and go to shows even though your wife is at home, like chilling out this weekend and like going all over the country and like barely making ends meet for a long time before you can like get these things through the pipeline. If you can't maintain that passion at the beginning to create it, it is not even worth pursuing. And even if you're halfway done and you lose passion about it, let it go and maybe you come back to it later.
You could always put your personal one on hold too to get these things done quicker, because even if you're passionate about it, I don't know how many work you've done in the past, but your quality might not be as best on there. So if it's something you're very passionate about, you might wait till you're a little longer in your career too.
Yeah. So small projects you can finish.
Yeah.
Zine projects, 8-page, 10-page, 20-page, whatever you can finish and still be passionate about is what you should be doing at the beginning. So that was Justin and I rapping about the writer's journey. If you like that episode, go say hello to Justin at Cali Comics. And if you like this show, head on over to thebusinessofart.us/iTunes to rate, review, and subscribe today. It's the best way for us to find new people to help, and more importantly, it's the best way to make sure you don't miss any of our fantastic content. Head on over today at thebusinessofart.us/iTunes. Have a great day, wannabes and creators. I will see you next time.